Jeffrey Epstein was a financier and convicted sex offender whose life was shrouded in mystery and scandal. Born in 1953 in Brooklyn, New York, Epstein rose from modest beginnings to become a wealthy and influential figure. His charm and intelligence helped him gain entry into elite social circles. He began his career as a teacher but soon transitioned into finance, working at Bear Stearns before establishing his own financial firm. His firm catered to a select group of billionaires, although the specifics of his financial dealings remain opaque. Epstein's rapid ascent in wealth and power is a testament to his strategic maneuvering and connections. He presented himself as an intelligent and well-connected individual who could offer financial advice and management services to the ultra-wealthy. This image was carefully crafted and maintained, allowing him access to the rich and famous. Despite his professional success, the origins of Epstein's wealth were often questioned, with many speculating about the legality of his financial practices. As Epstein's influence grew, so did the rumors surrounding his personal life. Allegations of sexual misconduct began to surface, painting a picture of a man who used his power to exploit vulnerable individuals. These allegations, however, were not immediately pursued by law enforcement, allowing Epstein to continue his operations largely unchecked. His ability to evade consequences for so long highlights the intersections of wealth, power, and justice. In the decades that followed, Epstein's name became synonymous with scandal and abuse. The accusations against him culminated in a complex criminal network that exploited countless young girls. Epstein's story is a chilling reminder of how power can be manipulated to perpetuate heinous acts, often with little to no immediate repercussions. Understanding his background is crucial to grasping the breadth of his crimes and the systemic failures that allowed them. Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking network was a meticulously organized operation that preyed on the vulnerable. At the heart of this network was the recruitment and grooming of young girls, often from marginalized backgrounds. Epstein and his associates, including Ghislaine Maxwell, used various lures to attract their victims, promising them opportunities, money, or a better life. Once entangled in Epstein's web, these girls found it difficult to escape, trapped by manipulation and fear. The process typically began with scouting targets and approaching them with seemingly innocuous offers. Victims were often promised modeling gigs, scholarships, or financial assistance, which, for many, seemed like a dream come true. Once trust was established, the girls were gradually introduced to Epstein's world, often starting with seemingly innocent tasks that escalated to abuse. This grooming process was insidious, exploiting the girls' aspirations and vulnerabilities. Epstein's network relied heavily on a network of recruiters, many of whom were young women who had previously been victims themselves. These recruiters played a crucial role in normalizing the abuse and convincing new victims that their experiences were typical and acceptable. This cycle of exploitation perpetuated itself, with victims often unaware of the full scope of Epstein's operations or the extent of his influence. The abuse was not limited to physical and sexual violations, it extended to psychological manipulation and control. Epstein's victims were often isolated from their support systems, making them more dependent on him and less likely to seek help. This environment of fear and control was carefully constructed, allowing Epstein to maintain his operations for years without significant interference from law enforcement. Jeffrey Epstein's lifestyle was characterized by an extravagant display of wealth and power, a facade that masked his criminal activities. He owned several high-profile properties, each serving as a stage for his illicit operations. Among these were a luxurious Manhattan townhouse, a sprawling estate in Palm Beach, a ranch in New Mexico, and a private island in the Caribbean famously known as Pedophile Island. These locations were not just homes, they were integral to his trafficking network, designed to impress and intimidate. The infamous Lolita Express, Epstein's private jet, became a symbol of his opulence and the depth of his connections. This aircraft was reportedly used to transport high-profile guests to his properties, including the private island, where much of the abuse took place. The flight logs from Epstein's jet revealed a list of influential passengers, raising questions about the extent of his connections and the complicity of those involved. Epstein's social circle included some of the world's most powerful and influential individuals. He cultivated relationships with politicians, academics, celebrities, and royals, often using these connections to bolster his image and protect his interests. These associations were not merely for show, they provided Epstein with a network of influence that proved invaluable in evading scrutiny and preserving his operations. The luxury and connections that defined Epstein's public persona were critical components of his criminal enterprise. They enabled him to project an image of untouchability, discouraging potential whistleblowers and victims from coming forward. This protective shell allowed Epstein to operate with impunity for years, highlighting the dangerous intersection of wealth, influence, and criminality. The first significant warning signs about Jeffrey Epstein emerged in the early 1990s, although they were largely ignored at the time. Allegations of inappropriate behavior and sexual misconduct began to surface, but these claims were often dismissed or settled quietly. This lack of action set a precedent that would characterize the handling of Epstein's case for years to come, allowing his network to flourish. In 2005, a major investigation was launched by the Palm Beach Police Department after the parents of a 14-year-old girl reported allegations of abuse. The investigation uncovered a pattern of suspicious activities and led to a substantial body of evidence against Epstein. However, despite the gravity of the findings, the case was not pursued with the vigor it warranted. Instead, Epstein's legal team negotiated a controversial plea deal that would have far-reaching consequences. The 2008 plea deal was a remarkable example of legal leniency. Epstein was allowed to plead guilty to minor charges of solicitation and served only 13 months in a county jail, with provisions that allowed him work release privileges. This deal effectively silenced other potential charges and was struck without consulting many of the victims, leading to widespread outrage and calls for accountability. Despite the 2008 plea deal, Epstein continued his lifestyle relatively unchecked until 2019. Renewed investigations, propelled by investigative journalism and public pressure, brought the case back into the spotlight. This resurgence of interest eventually led to Epstein's arrest, marking a significant turning point in a case that had been marred by years of inaction and cover-ups. The experiences of Jeffrey Epstein's victims are, honestly, harrowing tales of manipulation and abuse, compounded by a systemic failure to protect them. Many of these young girls came from vulnerable backgrounds, making them, unfortunately, easy targets for Epstein's predatory tactics. They were lured with promises of financial help or career opportunities, only to find themselves trapped in a cycle of abuse and exploitation. The silence surrounding their stories was not just a product of Epstein's manipulations, but also of a society that for some reason failed to listen. Many of the victims reported their abuse to authorities, only to be dismissed or not believed. This dismissal was a recurring theme, reflecting a broader societal tendency to disbelieve or minimize the experiences of sexual abuse survivors, especially when the perpetrators are powerful men. In many cases, legal settlements were reached that included non-disclosure agreements, effectively silencing victims and preventing them from sharing their stories. These agreements served to protect Epstein and his associates, ensuring that the full extent of his crimes remained hidden from public view. This legal silencing added an additional layer of trauma for the victims, who were left without a voice or a sense of justice. The stories of Epstein's victims have since become a powerful testament to the courage and resilience of those who speak out against abuse. Their bravery in coming forward has been instrumental in bringing attention to the case, and honestly, challenging the systems that allowed such exploitation to persist. This shift from silence to vocal advocacy marks a pivotal moment in the broader movement for victims' rights and justice. The 2008 plea deal reached by Jeffrey Epstein remains one of the most controversial aspects of the case. Negotiated by his powerhouse legal team, it allowed Epstein to plead guilty to charges far less severe than those initially investigated. As part of the deal, Epstein served a lenient sentence in a county jail, with privileges that included leaving the facility for work during the day. This outcome was met with widespread disbelief and anger, particularly among the victims who had been denied their day in court. Public outrage over the plea deal was amplified by investigative journalism that began to uncover the deal's intricacies. Reports revealed that the agreement had been made in secret and, without the knowledge of many victims, violating their rights under the Crime Victims' Rights Act. This revelation prompted renewed calls for justice and accountability, leading to increased pressure on authorities to revisit the case. The re-examination of Epstein's activities gained momentum in the late 2010s, fueled by persistent media coverage and public demand for transparency. This renewed scrutiny coincided with the broader Me Too movement, which highlighted issues of sexual misconduct and abuse by powerful individuals. Epstein's case became emblematic of the systemic failures that allowed such abuses to continue unchecked. The revival of investigations into Epstein's activities culminated in his 2019 arrest, signaling a significant shift in the handling of the case. It represented a moment of reckoning for the justice system and highlighted the critical role of public pressure and journalistic integrity in pursuing accountability for powerful offenders. This renewed focus on Epstein's crimes opened the door for further legal action and greater awareness of the systemic issues at play. Jeffrey Epstein's 2019 arrest marked a significant turning point in a case that had long been shrouded in controversy and secrecy. On July 6, 2019, Epstein was arrested at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey, returning from Paris. He was charged with sex trafficking and conspiracy to commit sex trafficking, reflecting the gravity of his alleged crimes. This arrest was a culmination of years of investigative work and public pressure, finally holding Epstein accountable in a way that had been previously elusive. Following his arrest, Epstein was denied bail and held in the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City. The charges he faced were severe and carried the potential for a long prison sentence. While in custody, Epstein reportedly expressed concerns for his safety, claiming that his life was at risk. These concerns were heightened by his high-profile connections and the potential implications of his testimony. On August 10, 2019, Epstein was found dead in his jail cell, an event that sparked widespread conspiracy theories and public outcry. His death was ruled a suicide by hanging, but the circumstances surrounding it have remained contentious. The lack of surveillance footage and reports of irregularities at the jail fueled suspicions that Epstein's death was not as straightforward as it seemed, leading to calls for further investigation. Epstein's death left many questions unanswered, particularly regarding the extent of his network and the involvement of others. It deprived victims of the chance to see him face justice and left a void in the legal proceedings that were underway. The mystery surrounding his death continues to be a subject of debate and speculation, underscoring the complexities of the case and the challenges of achieving full accountability. Ghislaine Maxwell, a British socialite and close associate of Jeffrey Epstein, played a central role in his trafficking operations. Maxwell was accused of recruiting, grooming, and abusing young girls alongside Epstein, leveraging her social status and charm to gain the trust of victims. Her arrest in July 2020 marked a significant development in the quest for justice. Maxwell was charged with multiple counts, including conspiracy to entice minors to travel for illegal sexual acts, transportation of a minor with intent to engage in criminal sexual activity, and perjury. Her trial was closely watched as it promised to shed light on the inner workings of Epstein's network and potentially reveal the involvement of other high-profile individuals. During the trial, testimonies from victims highlighted Maxwell's active participation in the abuse and her pivotal role in facilitating Epstein's crimes. Witnesses described how she manipulated and coerced them, often under the guise of mentorship or friendship. These accounts painted a damning picture of Maxwell as a key enabler who acted with calculated ruthlessness. In December 2021, Maxwell was found guilty on 5 of the 6 charges against her, including sex trafficking of a minor. Her conviction was a significant victory for the victims and a testament to their courage in coming forward. It sent a powerful message about the importance of holding those who enable abuse accountable, regardless of their social status or connections. Maxwell's downfall was a critical step in unraveling Epstein's network and seeking justice for those he harmed. The saga of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell has become a stark illustration of the complexities surrounding power, accountability, and justice. It highlights how individuals with wealth and influence can manipulate systems to evade consequences, often at the expense of the most vulnerable. This case underscores the critical need for vigilance and reform in how allegations of abuse are handled, particularly when they involve powerful figures. One of the most profound lessons from this case is the resilience and bravery of the survivors. Despite the odds stacked against them, the victims of Epstein and Maxwell came forward, sharing their stories and demanding justice. Their courage has been instrumental in bringing about legal action and raising public awareness about the pervasive nature of sexual abuse and exploitation. The Epstein case has also prompted broader discussions about the structures that enable such abuses to persist. It has catalyzed calls for legislative changes and increased accountability for law enforcement and judicial systems that fail to protect victims. The public's response has demonstrated a growing intolerance for leniency towards offenders, emphasizing the need for systemic change. As society continues to grapple with the implications of this case, it is crucial to prioritize the voices and experiences of survivors. Their stories are not only vital for understanding the scope of the crimes, but also for driving meaningful change. The Epstein case is a reminder of the ongoing fight for justice and the importance of listening to and believing survivors.